We're counting down the days, gaming folks, because it's almost Christmas time. Have you made that Xmas list yet? Ah, humbug. Don't you ever think you're too old for Christmas wish lists? We know exactly what you need. My name is Patrick Hickey Jr., author of the Minds Behind the Games book series, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming History from Megacat Studios, where we give you history's best games ever released. Don't you dare skimp on smashing that like button and that bell. Oh, and subscribe too, or else the ghost of Xmas past will haunt you. We promise Santa will reward you kids at heart. First on our list is Megaman 4, also called Megaman 4, A New Evil Ambition, released in Japan on December 6, 1991. Taking place right after Megaman 3, the Earth is supposedly under attack by a new threat after the supposed death of Dr. Wily. This time, another evil scientist takes his place called Dr. Cossack, as he unleashes his 8 robot masters. The game features new trinkets and items such as the Mega Buster, which was the first time it was introduced in the series and has become a staple in the succeeding Mega games ever since. 2 additional support items called the Wire Adapter and the Balloon Adapter also aid the player in reaching areas not normally accessible. Lastly, Flip Top Eddie is introduced in Mega Man 4. Eddie, who went on to appear in later Mega Man games, provides the player with a random item such as health, ammunition, or an E-Tank at designated points in some levels. Features from Mega Man 3 were also retained, such as Rush, with the ability to transform into Coil, Jet, and Marine modes for navigating different environments, as well as Slide ability. These new features also introduced a lot of new secrets and glitches, such as the infamous Dr. Wily glitch, where you soft lock the game by killing Dr. Wily. This is done by casting Rain Flush at the right time, killing Dr. Wily. The ending sequence will not play. I mean, who doesn't want their game to end? I guess the game recognizes that there would be a time paradox. Other famous glitches include the Rush Marine glitch and the Wire Adapter glitch, allowing you to break the game, avoiding obstacles altogether in their respective levels. There's also a way for Flip Top Eddie to keep on dropping items so long as you don't pick it up. You keep doing this until he drops your desired item. Neat trick. But I think Flip Top Eddie would be so flipped if he finds out the player is extorting him. Speaking of flips, this next game allows you to flip the X-Wing ship and shoot all the TIE fighters you wish. You know, in a galaxy far, far away. A game that was released that delighted Star Wars fans across the globe. You got it. Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
Relive the glory days, rebel scum.
I don't. Relive the glory days, rebel scum. I can't do Darth Vader, sorry guys. As you pilot numerous Star Wars ships in an arcade-style flight action game co-developed by Factor 5 and LucasArts. The first of the 3 games in the Rogue Squadron series, it was released for Microsoft Windows and Nintendo 64 on December 7th, 1998. The game's story was influenced by the Star Wars X-Wing Rogue Squadron comics, taking place primarily between events in the Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. Gameplay is presented from the third-person perspective, and the game's objectives are divided into 4 categories: Search and Destroy, Reconnaissance, Rescue, and Protect. When Rogue Squadron was released in 1998, the title's Nintendo 64 incarnation was the second highest selling game of the first half of the month, behind Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, of course. I guess Luke's lightsaber and the piloting skills were no match for Link's Master Sword. Oh, and if you love secrets like I do, this game has tons. You can unlock new levels by gaining medals on the regular ones. A few examples are Beggar's Canyon Race, Battle of Hoth, and the infamous Death Star Trench Run. But the best secret of them all was when a particular ship, which was only seen in the new Star Wars movie after 15 years during that time, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The Naboo Starfighter was one of the Nintendo 64's most well-known codes and was only unlocked 6 months after the game's release when LucasArts decided to unveil the code. I mean, wow, I couldn't even keep a secret that long. It's no secret though that Vin Diesel is one of the awesome action stars out there right now, and his first big break, Pitch Black, was such a good sci-fi movie. I watch it every now and then. But hearing that our favorite Furion is back, but in video game form this time, was such a big surprise for me. To top it all off, it's one of the best movie-to-game adaptations ever. The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay was a first-person action and stealth video game developed by Starbreeze Studios and published by Vivendi Universal Games. It was released on December 8th, 2004. In spite of being cancelled on the PS2 and selling just 440,000 units, the game has garnered a cult following and went on to win several accolades, including the Golden Joystick Award for Unsung Video Game of the Year and the Spike Video Game Award for Best Game Based on a Movie. The game incorporates elements from video game genres such as first-person shooter, adventure, and stealth, and is primarily played from a first-person perspective, though the camera switches to third-person perspective during certain scenes. I mean, it's not an original idea, but the way it mixes those elements is a true testament to how inspirations and influences should be treated and done right to make an amazing form of the medium. Also, it's fair to say that Chronicles of Riddick was a deep inspiration for games such as Fallout 3 that is. Oh, and the fact that there's no HUD or heads-up display adds even more immersion to the game. There's also a bunch of neat Easter eggs you can unlock in the game by collecting all 62 packs of smoke. Don't smoke, kids! Doing so would unlock an animation showroom. Here you can watch Riddick perform all 28 of his combat moves on Johns, as well as some cool little Easter eggs. We can't really show you the animations from the secret showroom because they're really graphic in nature, you know, like blood and violence and all. So instead, here's a cat punching a tiger stuffed toy. So I'm pretty sure you enjoyed watching that kitty cat beat up the tiger plushie, but you'll also enjoy watching the next one on this list. The GOAT of all 3D fighting games is born. Well, not really, because Virtua Fighter came before it, but Tekken was superior in more ways than one in my opinion. If you don't agree, let's settle this with a video game match. Hi-ya! In a first for fighting games at the time, Tekken allows the player to control each of the character's 4 limbs independently. The original arcade version featured 8 playable characters. Each has a special sub-boss associated with them, who will be fought in stage 8, followed by the final boss, Heihachi Mashima. The sub-boss characters are clones in terms of moveset, with only a handful of moves distinguishing them from the original. What's a bummer though is that all sub-bosses and Heihachi were never made playable in the original arcade version. When the game was ported to PlayStation though, they were unlockable by clearing arcade mode using different characters. It was so much cool. I used to play through all of these games just to unlock them, and Tekken was the original. Interestingly enough though, Tekken was not originally conceived as a fighting game. The project began as an internal Namco test case for animating 3D character models, and eventually incorporated texture mappings similar to what was found in Namco's 1993 racing game, Ridge Racer. However, with most of the Virtua Fighter developers transferring from Sega to Namco, they decided to push through and make a fighting game to rival Sega's Virtua Fighter series. It was initially called Rave Wars. Funny name, I guess people were into rave parties back then. Actually, Ridge Racer's original name was Rave Racer 2, so there you go. An interesting fact about the cat-faced wrestler King, he is based on 2 people, Satoru Tiger Mask Sayama, a famous Japanese professional wrestler, and Frei Tormenta, a Mexican priest who supported an orphanage by becoming a luchador. Anybody watch Nacho Libre? This is his real-life counterpart. The game that started the first-person shooter revolution, the granddaddy of all modern first-person shooters, make way for Doom, a headbanger of a game. It was the hottest game of its time, played by an estimated 15 to 20 million people within the first 2 years of its release, and its first 9 levels was distributed freely via shareware. This prompted universities locking down some of their computers as it overloaded their servers and essentially banned Doom in some places. Players assumed the role of a space marine, popularly known as Doom Guy, fighting his way through hordes of invading demons from hell. This was created by John Romero and John Carmack after releasing Wolfenstein 3D. The concept originally had the working title of Green and Pissed. Alright, I'm thinking of a different Green and Pissed, you know. But Carmack soon renamed the proposed game Doom after a line in the film The Color of Money. What do you got in there? In here? Doom. It's in the way that you use it. Doom was one of the most ported games ever and still is. Doom has also been ported unofficially to numerous platforms. So many ports exist, including for esoteric devices such as smart thermostats and oscilloscopes, that variations on It Runs Doom or Can It Run Doom are long-running memes. It even ran on a pregnancy kit. Lucky parents! I wouldn't even be surprised anymore if Doom would run on my oven toaster or microwave or even my grandpa's watch. Another iconic game that was praised for its good graphics and gameplay during its time was 1942. 1942 is a vertically scrolling shooter game made by Capcom that was released for arcades in 1984 and released for the NES in December 1985. Designed by Yoshiki Okamoto, it was the first game in the series. Ironically, despite the game being created by Japanese developers, the goal is to reach Tokyo and destroy the Japanese air fleet. This was due to being the first Capcom game designed with Western influences in mind. However, this put Capcom in hot water, especially by its Japanese fans, as they were piloting an American aircraft while shooting down Japanese planes. This didn't stop them from playing the game anyway. The player pilots a Lockheed P-38 Lightning dubbed the Super Ace, and you are essentially a one-man army fighting through hordes of planes and shooting down huge aircraft bosses. Despite this, the game has a special roll button that allows players to avoid dangerous situations by temporarily looping out of the playfield. In addition to the standard high score fanfare, it also has a separate percentage for high score, recording the best ratio of enemy fighters to enemies shot down. Now that is a timeless classic. Speaking of timeless classics, the last on this list can be argued by some to be the best Final Fantasy story. I mean, in my opinion, all the Final Fantasy stories are really good, and it's nice to have a few options here and there, since the games have little or no connection to one another except for Crystals and Cid. In North America in 1991, it was released as Final Fantasy II, which is obviously a misnomer because this is the fourth installment in the series. This was because the second and third installment in the franchise was not released outside of Japan. The GBA version, however, fixed this and was released on December 12th, 2005. Retrospectively, Final Fantasy IV is often regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time, noting that it pioneered many now common console role-playing game features, including the concept of dramatic storytelling in an RPG. Unlike prior games in the series, IV gave each character their own unchangeable character class. Final Fantasy IV also introduced Square's active time battle ATB system, which differed from the standard turn-based designs of previous RPGs. The ATB system centers on the player inputting orders for characters in real time during battles. Fun fact, Hiroku Ito, the designer of the battle system, was inspired while watching a Formula 1 race and seeing racers pass each other at different speeds. This gave him the idea of different speed values for the individual characters. When the GBA version was released in Japan, a special version was available, which included a limited edition Game Boy Micro with a themed faceplate featuring artwork of Cecil, and look how glorious this is. It also saw a lot of major additions not found in the original release, such as a new cave at Mount Ordeals was added, featuring powerful armor and stronger weapons for 5 additional characters, as was the Lunar Ruins, a dungeon accessible only at the end of the game. It also featured the Developers Room, which was now renamed to the 1991 Dev Team Office. At the 1991 Dev Team Office entrance, you can talk to the developers of the original game, complete with their rank where they worked back in the day in 1991. Pretty neat callback there. That's it for This Week in Gaming History. Join us again next week as we look at more awesome games from the past and rub it in how old we kids at heart are. Wait. Who writes this script? I'm not old. Click like and subscribe and hit that bell button. Ciao!